Picture this. You're running through dense brush, chasing down dinner, dodging thorns, rocks, biting insects, and you're doing all of it completely naked from the waist down. No underwear, no pants, nothing. So what actually protected you down there? What stopped every single sprint, climb, and scramble from being an absolute nightmare? Turns out, humans figured this out a long, long time before you'd expect. And the answer survived, frozen, literally, for over 5,000 years, waiting for someone to dig it up. Let's slow down for a second, because this is genuinely a problem you'd have to solve if you were alive back then. You're running, climbing, squatting by a fire, wading through rivers, sitting on rough stone and cold ground for hours at a time. Everything is exposed. No fabric, no elastic, no protection. You'd get chafed raw within days. Cuts and scrapes in places you really don't want cuts and scrapes. And in freezing climates, genuine frostbite risk in areas you'd very much like to keep functional. So this wasn't vanity. This wasn't fashion. This was survival-level problem solving. Same as fire, same as shelter. You needed something down there, and you needed it fast. Now let's jump to 1991. Two German hikers are walking through the Ötztal Alps on the border of Italy and Austria at over 3,000 meters elevation, and sticking out of melting glacier ice, they spot a body. At first, everyone assumed it was a modern mountaineering accident. It wasn't. It was a man who died over 5,300 years ago, preserved almost perfectly in ice. Scientists would come to call him Ötzi. And here's the part that matters for you. Ötzi wasn't found naked. He was fully dressed, head to toe, in gear built for survival. And underneath his outer layers, he was wearing something you'd genuinely recognize: a loincloth. It was made from narrow strips of goat hide, stitched together into roughly a meter-long strip, worn between the legs and fastened at the waist with a belt. Functionally, that's underwear. Purpose-built, tailored, and clearly not his first attempt at solving this problem. The stitching is careful, practiced work. This is, to this day, the oldest actual physical underwear ever discovered. Not a drawing of it, not a description of it. The real thing, sewn by real hands over 5,000 years ago. Here's where it gets interesting, though. Ötzi almost certainly wasn't the beginning. Leather and hide loincloths don't survive well. They rot, they get eaten, they disintegrate over centuries unless conditions are freakishly perfect, like, say, being frozen solid in a glacier for 5 millennia. So the fact that we have Ötzi's loincloth at all is basically a fluke of preservation, not proof this was the first one ever made. Most archaeologists think loincloths go back much further than Ötzi, potentially tens of thousands of years, just made from materials that never had a chance to survive. Woven plant fiber, grass, bark cloth, softened animal hide, worn until it fell apart and got replaced. Quick pause if you're the kind of person who wants the real, weird, actually true version of history. Subscribe, because that's literally the entire point of this channel. And drop a comment. What's the most surprising, how did ancient humans even survive that thing you've ever learned? I want to see what you've got. Okay, back to it. So picture yourself making one. You'd take a strip of hide or woven fiber, roughly the length of your arm, and pass it between your legs. Then wrap it around our waist and tuck or tie it off. Simple. No zippers, no elastic, no stitching required if you're desperate, just wrap and tuck. If you had access to better tools, like Ötzi clearly did, you could go further. Cut narrow strips, stitch them together into one solid fitted piece, and fasten it properly with a belt so it actually stayed put during a full day of hunting, climbing, or fighting off the cold. And this wasn't a one-off invention that disappeared. Loincloths like this show up independently, again and again, across totally unconnected ancient cultures: Egypt, the Americas, across Asia. When completely separate groups of humans, with no contact with each other, keep landing on the exact same solution, that's usually a sign it's solving a real, universal problem, not just a cultural preference. Here's the thing that might surprise you. This simple strip of hide wasn't just comfort, it was actual survival gear. In cold climates, like the one Ötzi was found in, it meant the difference between staying mobile and risking frostbite in a spot that could genuinely end you infection in that area, with zero modern medicine, was a real killer. In hot climates, it meant protection from thorns, insects, and rough terrain during hours of walking and hunting, without overheating the way heavier clothing would. And there's a social layer too. Evidence suggests early humans, much like nearly every culture since, generally covered this part of the body, even when the rest of the body went uncovered. Whatever the exact reason, the instinct runs deep, and it runs old. So what did ancient humans wear when there was no underwear as we know it? Not nothing, not never. Just something simpler, older, and honestly more practical than you'd expect. A strip of hide or fiber, wrapped and tied, doing the exact same job your underwear drawer does for you right now. Ötzi's 5,300-year-old goat hide loincloth is our oldest hard proof, but the real story stretches back much further, into the tens of thousands of years we simply can't see anymore, because the material didn't survive. If you'd been alive back then, this wouldn't have felt primitive to you at all. It would have just felt like getting dressed. They didn't skip underwear, they invented it first. Expect underwear to have a 5,000-plus-year-old paper trail. That's exactly the kind of thing this channel exists for. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and tell me in the comments what ancient survival mystery you want covered next. I read every single one. See you in the next video.